In this lesson, we will be working on identifying polynomials, where we can write a polynomial in standard form, identify its leading coefficient, and identify a polynomial by its degree and its number of terms. In this lesson, we'll have quite a bit of vocabulary. The first term that we need to know is the term polynomial. It is an expression that's made up of constants, which are numbers that do not change, variables, and exponents, and these are combined using addition, subtraction, and multiplication, but not division. All exponents must be whole numbers. For example, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. They cannot be decimals, fractions, or negative numbers. On the side, I have examples of polynomials for you. Here is an example: 7x squared minus 9x plus 5, where we have constant terms. Remember, constant terms are any number because it does not change its constant, variables, and then we have exponents. So these are examples of polynomials, and they are joined by subtraction, addition, and also are joined by multiplication, but they cannot be joined by division. Another example would be 20x minus 9. Another example, x to the fourth minus x cubed plus 3x squared minus 6. Our next important vocabulary is the word term. The term of a polynomial is each part of that polynomial that's being added or subtracted. A term is a unit that is joined together by multiplication, or it can be a single number variable. So in this example, x to the fourth is a term. It is a variable and an exponent. In this example, 3x squared is a term. It is joined together as one unit by multiplication. The coefficient of a polynomial is the number that is in front of each variable in the term. So for example, in this particular term, 20x, the 20 is the coefficient. It's the number out front, or the leader. Here I've given you some non-examples. These are not polynomials. This one is not a polynomial because it has a negative number as its exponent. This is not a polynomial because it has division. Some more vocabulary for us. The first thing we want to be able to do for a polynomial is to put it in standard form. Standard form is putting the terms in order by their degree from highest to lowest. So what we want to do is put these in order according to their exponents. We start with the largest exponent, and remember that the sign of the number leads the way, so this is a positive 10x to the fifth power. That would be the first term, putting them in order. Our second term, we look for the next highest exponent, which is going to be negative 9x squared, and then lastly our 7x. This is called standard form. The leading coefficient is the number that is in the front when our polynomial is in standard form. It is the number in front of the variable. Our leading coefficient in this example would be 10. The degree of each term is the exponent of that particular term. So in this case, the 10x to the fifth, the 5 or fifth power would be the degree of that term. In this particular term, negative 9x squared, the 2 would be the degree. In this particular example, when there is just a 7, since there is not an x, it would be x to the 0 power, which is 1, so that would be to the 0 degree. The degree of the polynomial is the highest exponent of the entire polynomial in standard form. In this particular example, our exponent is a 5, so this will be to the 5th degree. Now we want to be able to name polynomials by their degree. If the polynomial has a 0 degree, an example might be 8x to the 0 power, which also then should be written in simplest form. X to the 0 power, any number to the 0 power is 1, and 8 times 1 is 8. So this would be to the 0 degree. It simply is a number, and the name for it then is a constant because it is a value that does not change. When a polynomial is to the first degree, that means it has an exponent of 1. Here's an example above, which is 9x. So that is to the first power. The name of that polynomial will be linear, and that's what we spent our first couple units on. Y equals mx plus b, it is to the first power. To the second degree would be an example listed above, 6x squared plus 9x minus 1. This polynomial is to the second degree because that is the highest exponent, and the name for this is called a quadratic. And we're going to spend most of our second semester on quadratics. To the third degree would be something like this, 7x cubed minus 5, where our polynomial has a highest exponent of 3. This is a cubic function. Easy way to remember that is when you have a cube, its length, width, and height. 3 measurements, it is cubic. An example to the fourth degree might be x to the fourth minus 2x squared plus 5. This would be to the fourth degree, and this is called a quartic function. The way to remember that is there are 4 quarters in a dollar. After the fourth degree, we will not name them specifically. We will just use the number value. So if something is to the fifth degree, we would just name the polynomial that it's to the fifth degree. Now we want to name polynomials by the number of terms that they have. So if we have a polynomial that is one term, for example, 8x, it is 1 unit. One term is called a monomial. Mono meaning 1. 2 terms. 2 terms that are joined by addition or subtraction. So we have 2 separate units joined by subtraction. 2 terms is a binomial. Bi meaning 2. For example, a bicycle has 2 wheels. 3 terms. An example might be 7x squared plus 5x minus 2. These 3 units or terms are joined by addition or subtraction, and the specific name is a trinomial. 4 or more terms, an example would be x to the fourth minus 3x cubed plus 2x squared plus 7. 4 terms, we will simply call that a polynomial. There are specific names from 4 or more, but we will just be worried about the first 3 specific names, and after that we will call it a polynomial. Poly meaning many, many terms. Let's practice. Write each polynomial in standard form, give its name by degree and the number of terms, and then state the leading coefficient. So in example A, we have 5 minus 2x. Remember, when we put this in standard form, we want the largest exponent to be first, and then go in to the lowest exponent. So our first term will be negative 2x, and then plus 5, which is our constant term. We now want to name this by its degree. Its degree is the largest exponent present in the entire polynomial. It is to the first degree, so this is linear. Name it by the number of terms. There are 2 terms, 2 units, so this is called a binomial. And the leading coefficient is the number that is out front. It's the leader when it is in standard form, and in this example it would be -2. In our next example for letter B, our largest exponent would have the term 3x to the fourth. Then our next highest exponent would give us 2x squared, and then our last term would be -4. To name this by the degree would be to look at the highest exponent, which is a 4, and that would be a quartic function. Naming this by its terms, there are 1, 2, 3 terms or units, so this is called a trinomial. And the leading coefficient is the number out front, which is the number 3. In the next example, we want to put these in order, highest exponent first, for standard form. So we'd have x cubed minus 4x squared minus 2x plus 5 as our last term. Taking a look at the largest exponent that is present in our polynomial, it is to the third degree, and the third degree is cubic. If we want to name this by the number of terms, we count how many terms there are, which are units joined by multiplication. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Since there are 4 and 4 or more terms, we will classify as a polynomial. The leading coefficient is the number out front of our polynomial when it's written in standard form. In this case, we don't see a number, so we understand it to be 1. In our next example, we want to put this in standard form. We look for our largest exponent, which is 6x squared. Then we have our next term, which is to the first power would be minus 9x, and our last term would be 7, which is our constant. We want to name this polynomial by its degree. It is to the second degree, and the name for the second degree is a quadratic. We need to count the number of terms. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 terms. This is a trinomial. And the leading coefficient, the number out front, is 6. To review, please remember to put your polynomial in standard form, which means that we put our terms in order of exponents, largest exponent first. That gives us our leading coefficient as the number out front of the variable when it is written in standard form, and the degree of the polynomial is the largest exponent present for the polynomial. Please make sure to start memorizing this vocabulary, which we will use all unit and for the rest of the semester. Remember to complete the reflection.